we go. How are you guys doing?
Good.
It's beautiful morning, and is it a beautiful morning in Okinawa? Is the sun out?
Every morning. Yes.
Well, sometimes I don't know if it's rainy season.
You miss it?
Oh yeah, absolutely, every day. I actually think that Kadena is the greatest assignment in the Air Force, hands down, no questions asked.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I could say that too.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
For sure. So where are you going, Captain Bush? I heard you're leaving soon.
Yep, they got sick of me and they're gonna boot me. They're sending me off to. I'm doing the LLM program, so I'm gonna go to the government contract program in Washington D.C.
Okay.
And then who knows after that? Just kind of a 1-year gig, and then you usually either stay in the area or go to Right Pat or another kind of contracting base. So we'll see.
Nice. Well, DC's not bad. You excited about DC?
Definitely, yeah. That's where I went to law school, so I'm really pretty excited about going back to that area. My wife, she used to work there, so she's got some good connections. We've got a lot of friends there. It's going to be a really good year, I think.
Awesome. Good. And how are you, Sergeant Flores?
I'm doing well, thank you, sir. Yep.
Cool. You all busy?
I think that's an understatement. There's always something going on here, but as a loss, I am excited every day to come to work because I have a great team, and it's always something new because there's no checklist in being a loss, as you already know. So it's a different hat compared to being a military justice NCOIC. But I do know that I definitely thank my supervision, and shout out to Sergeant Martin, Sergeant Bolda, Sergeant Anderson, who's now retired, all of them who truly developed me to be ready for this role. So whether it was the Justice NCOIC to now the loss, it's kind of like, how did that happen in a span of 4 years? So.
That's right. I mean, I remember, not even maybe 3 years ago, we were both just military justice paralegals at Kadena, right? I mean, I would say none of us were NCOICs, and then to think from that point to now, well, I want to say about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
From that point to now, like, a lot has definitely changed.
Yes.
But thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I've definitely admired how you guys have been doing business over there at Kadena. And not only that, but, I just saw that you guys won the best legal office in the Air Force for 2019. So that's a huge deal. So congratulations on that. That is amazing. But it's not surprising either, because it's a testament to the hard work that you guys have been doing and been putting there. And I saw it firsthand, right? I mean, although I was in the PME world, I would come around every now and then, and I would see just the outstanding work. And it's not like one of those situations in which production is happening, but then people are miserable, like, right? It just seemed like people were getting along and people seemed happy. I mean, I don't know if we're putting in front, but
Right.
They seem to enjoy their time there at the legal office. They seem to be thriving at the Kadena legal office. So I just kind of wanted to highlight some of the things that you guys have been doing. Obviously, the preparation for the big inspection, and just getting into the day-to-day, how do you guys go about the day-to-day operations, and will mainly be centered around military justice. So again, thank you. I'll introduce you real quick, and then after I introduce you, you can go ahead and just tell me a little bit about yourself. So we've got Captain Bush here with us today, and he is the Chief of Military Justice there at Kadena. And we also have our superstar in the paralegal career, Master
Oh my God.
Sergeant Flores, who is currently the Office Superintendent, but obviously she did a lot of time as the NCOIC of Military Justice. But I'll just go ahead and leave it up to you to just say a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Captain Gabriel Bush. I'm going in my 6th year at the JAG Corps now. Started off my first assignment at Fort Sam, Houston. So really loved Texas and working with all the great people there, the various legal offices throughout that region. And then got my dreams come true and was able to come to Kadena. It was my number one pick, and I don't know what happened to the assignment gods, but they accepted my offerings and and placed me here at Kadena. So I was really grateful for that opportunity. Just super excited to come overseas. It's one of the main reasons my family and I joined the Air Force. It's for opportunities like this. So we've just been really thrilled, and it's absolutely lived up to all the hype and expectations that we kind of had. And so it's been an amazing 3 years. Finishing up now here, I started off as chief of civil law, then went to kind of this gap filler position that we have as the chief of litigation, which is basically to prep you to become the chief of justice at Kadena. And then for my third year, I've been the chief of military justice. So as you mentioned, it's been an awesome team. I've never worked with such a cool, cohesive, sharp team. Everyone from the leadership to the temporary staff that come through here. There's just a really good energy and work ethic, and people are able to maintain professionalism and personalities, and it really strike a fun and hardworking balance that I think has given us some really positive results. It's been wonderful to be a part of.
It just seems like, a blend of all the great things that you want from an assignment, right? Sometimes the things don't match up, right? Sometimes you're at a great location, but work is not that great, but it seems like, the Kadena legal office right now, it has it all. It definitely has it all. And then you mentioned Fort Sam Houston. I think that I had an assignment to go there while you were there. I had been tagged to go, but then it conflicted with me being selected for DSD, so they had to cancel that. And then I was able to stay in Kadena, which I loved. But if I had to go back to the States, which I did now, and I'm okay with where I am, I do like Whiteman. But Fort Sam, I love San Antonio, so San Antonio's a great time as well.
It is such a cool town, and just a really, really fun, unique assignment with so many different folks and so many different legal offices within just such a small radius that you really get a lot of neat exposure to just different career fields and professionals throughout the JAG Corps. So yeah, I'd go back in a heartbeat. San Antonio is awesome.
Absolutely. And I read something else in your bio, and I think maybe Sergeant Flores already kind of told you about that. That you speak Brazilian, you speak both Portuguese and Brazilian Portuguese.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I've just been. I was fortunate enough to, right after high school, to go serve a mission for my church. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So, one of our opportunities is to basically spend a 2-year mission, and sometimes that assignment sends you abroad. So I was really fortunate to go to Brazil, and I lived in Salvador, Brazil, or Bahia, Brazil, for 2 years. Just really fell in love with the country and the language, and so tried to keep up my language skills since then, and did the language-enabled airman program, so the LEAP program. Started that as soon as I entered the JAG Corps, and they ironically slotted me for European Portuguese, which I was kind of upset about at first because I really love Brazilian Portuguese, but it was a neat opportunity to learn the different dialects. They're quite different, but then to be able to work with some of our Portuguese partners both in Europe and then in Africa, there's some really neat opportunities out of that. So can't stress the LEAP program enough. Very, very awesome program. You've got supportive leadership, and you can really have some incredible experiences there.
Great. That's great. Well, you got to say something. You got to say a little bit in Brazilian Portuguese. And I can understand, right? Because I speak Spanish, so I can pick up on the Brazilian Portuguese.
Sure. Okay. Bom dia a todo mundo. Espero tudo de bem para vocês. Espero que tenham dia maravilhoso. Sim, tudo de bem para vocês. Para os baianos, te amo.
That's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. I caught most of that, about 80% of that. About having a beautiful day. Hope that everyone has a beautiful day. Marvelous day.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, Sergeant Flores.
Hey, everybody. Although Sergeant Perez calls me a superstar, I would like to first give credit to the people who has raised me. It took a whole village to raise Sergeant Flores. Basically, I have been in the military. I've been in the Air Force for 13 years. I just hit my 13-year mark. I was initially a cop, a proud defender. I used that experience and definitely took that into the paralegal career field. I retrained, and here I am, right? I was stationed at Beale Air Force Base, which is ACC. I had great mentors and trainers out there, such as Senior Master Sergeant Larson, who used to work up at my NAF. And then also, the person that stuck out to me most was Sergeant Matson, Valerie Matson. She was amazing when it came to military justice and tag teaming with both getting the training at an ACC base and then coming over here to Kadena definitely was able to help me push the military justice section to where it needs to be, but definitely a lot of teamwork there. After I got the assignment to Kadena, I essentially did a continuous tour here. So this would be my last year. Next year I'm separating and I'm going to the University of Hawaii Richardson Law School. So I'll be going there for 3 years, but I'll be a reserve paralegal while I'm going to law school. Majority of the time for the service that I've been in for paralegals, I was a military justice paralegal for 3 years here on Kadena. So that was 2016 to 2019. And then immediately after that, Senior Master Sergeant Martin retired and I was able to naturally progress up and then currently serving as the law. When I was a military justice paralegal with Sergeant Perez, I definitely have to say that you were my wingman. We had a great team out here, Sergeant Brookins, Sergeant Murphy, Jessica Murphy. I definitely looked up to her when she came to running the military justice section. She was very knowledgeable with her job, and she was very professional when it came to training her people and investing in that. So that stood out to me the most. On top of that, Senior Master Larson was able to set the foundation for me when I was coming in as a retrainee, right? So a lot of her mentorship and a lot of the tools and techniques that I've learned from various people, I was able to take that and mold it into my leadership philosophy, which is honesty, accountability, and humility. With that, the 3 years of military justice here at Kadena was not easy. I mean, you saw the cases that we have. It started between 10 cases to 14 to 16. I mean, we always had a big load of cases. But the most important piece for me as an NCOIC was when Senior Master Sergeant Martin said to me, "You essentially run a small legal office back there." And I took that to heart. I took that as, wow, that's a big responsibility. Running a small legal office, which I have 5 paralegals, 7 attorneys, and 1 Japanese liaison. So having that in mind pushed me to be my best. My team pushed me to bring my best every day and learn together. And with that, we invested more in our relationship building because we focus on the people first and then the process. And when we were able to focus on the people, we focused on building them as leaders and empowering them to own their programs. Regardless if you were the Article 15 clerk all the way up to the SJA, every person in our office values relationships as a bottom line. We do not breed competition in here. Naturally, competition occurs, but you walk into our office and people will tell you, not just with the JAI team as a testament, but last week we had the PA photographer come in and say, "You have a really fun office. What do you guys do?" Well, we encourage people to be themselves. We encourage people to be themselves. We encourage them to bring their talents, and we also encourage them to sharpen each other. So it's a safe environment for us to accept that experts are once beginners, right? And then also that allowed people to be more confident in, hey, I don't understand this. Can you help me understand it? We created a safe zone to where it was more non-judgmental It was more, let's learn this together. The honesty piece is very straightforward as it is. We'll give you that direct feedback. We will tell you where we can improve on. Accountability piece goes a long way, from top to bottom. And then humility is being able to say, I need help on this, and I'm sorry I screwed up. What can we do better next time? So when you're able to have a relationship fostered office, you're able then to propel them to, push for the mission, because everybody is understanding how important they are, and what they bring to the table.
Absolutely. You made a lot of good points in there, but I have to highlight the one that you mentioned about empowerment, and that's what essentially how ownership takes place once you empower certain individuals to do certain things without having to be monitoring all the time, and just allowing for certain mistakes, then people can take ownership of their programs and what they're doing on a daily basis as well. So a really good point on that. So thank you for the insight and for the introduction. So we'll go ahead and jump in. I have some questions that I want to just kind of explore with your office, just to kind of see how things operate, or how things essentially operate in the legal office at the military justice section there. So we'll start with, what does a day in the life of an NCOIC of military justice looks like, and subsequently, what does a day in the life of a chief of military justice looks like as well? And this, at Kadena, we're talking about a large legal office. So what are your thoughts?
You want me to start?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. And I failed to mention too that the podcast is super cool.
Yes,
so
it is.
Really well done on that.
Innovation.
Yeah, I think that's so cool and so overdue. I saw that just last month. I was scrolling through, and then I saw that and listened to a couple episodes, and just really impressed with what y'all are doing. So thanks for having us, and thanks for putting this together. And it's going to be an invaluable resource for so many people, I think, with the episodes you're doing.
Thank you, sir.
That being said, so Dave, the Chief of Military Justice, I was thinking about this and just walking through what I do on a normal Monday, because I think that kind of highlights the laying out the week ahead the best. So on a normal Monday, I usually try and come in during the calm before the storm, at least on Mondays, a lot earlier, to be able to sit down, check email, review what's kind of coming up in the week, look at the blotter, review anything that happened over the weekend that I know is going to have to be discussed as a justice section. Review kind of the curfew logs that we have out here, and mapping out what the 15 teams are doing, what the courts are doing, and what our basically top 3 and 4, 5, and 6 are going to be for the day and for the week. And then what we usually do is we'll jump right into a justice meeting huddle, where we have a giant red cowbell, and we just ring it every morning, and we assemble the team. And everyone, comes out of their offices, and we meet for about 5 to 10 minutes. And all it is just a really quick touch base to see what the top priorities are, what packages are moving, where they're at, and what we can expect for that day and that week in terms of the major moving pieces. Then once we're all kind of in sync, usually I'll jump straight from there and get my car and drive over to the OSI office, which I think is a really important thing for Chiefs of Justice to be doing, is getting in their cars and getting out and getting in the offices with their partner. And so then I'll attend their weekly meeting, and the cases that we're actively advising on, I'll take notes on. We'll provide advice on their investigative steps, and I'll also provide relay or feedback from trial counsel teams that I've received on things that are either could use some help, some questions, some investigative guidance, just whatever feedback I get from the team, I relay at that point to OSI. And then I take their cases and I come back to the legal office, and I send out an email that basically summarizes those updates for our major cases. And then the rest of the day is basically built around working on those AmJams updates. AmJams is kind of the lifeline for us. We try to just implement that as much as we can. Nobody who tells you they love AmJams can say it with a straight face, but it is such a valuable tool if you can use it in the right way. And so you can either, hate the program and fight against it every week and struggle with it, or you can try and adapt it and use it as a valuable tool and to work for you. And so we kind of tried to take that latter approach and basically use AmJams as the tool that to communicate with each other and focus on our next steps and what we're doing, and then also to just capture where we're at with cases. And so everyone in the office is touching that. And what that means is when I give those updates back, then on Monday, the first people who look at those updates are actually the case paralegals. And then they go and meet with their trial counsel team and implement those updates into basically a weekly summary that will be forwarded to the Justice NCOIC, who then actually inputs them into AmJams. So what happens in the course of the day is you've got basically everyone in sync from OSI to Chief of Justice to the individual case paralegals and trial counsel, and then compiling all that information together into AmJams. Obviously, only one person does it, but we route all that information to the Chief or the Military Justice NCOIC, who then drafts it up and routes it out to myself and the SJA for review. So that that obviously takes a lot of time. It will take up a bulk of Mondays, but then usually I'm forwarding off an email then to Fifth Air Force, our NAP, for the kind of our top 3 of the week, and they ask that we do that every Monday, so that then they're in sync on our major blocks that we're trying to move. And then from there, it's just basically answering the phone in between the rest of the time. Then you're getting OSI, S2I, shirts, commanders, and I feel like your job as the Chief of Justice is basically to be, the point of contact for the outside world. You take their information and you distro it and delegate it to the folks who are best situated to handle it. And then same thing when you identify issues that your team are confronting, that you use those, you use your contacts with the quote unquote outside world to then help get movement on those cases. So it can feel, I think I think there's a reason why they have the Chief of Justice gig for most gigs only last a year. Because sometimes you just feel like you need to get off the hamster wheel just long enough to bang your head against the wall before you get back on it. But it's such a rewarding job, and I think if you can, I don't always do it, perfectly, that's for sure. But the times that I felt the most satisfaction in this job is when I delegate and then connect people, whether it's the outside partners that we've talked about with our inside personnel, but when you can become a facilitator basically for your office, I think that's really when you fulfill your role as a CMJs. You're not supposed to take everything on. You're supposed to help identify who's best situated to handle it and then empower them to do it. And so, yeah, I think we had a lot of success in the program, just as Sergeant Flores said, because we've got such a great team. You can punt out anything to any one person, and you know that they're going to handle it really well. So.
Okay. That's awesome. Well, thank you for that insight. That is a lot of good information there. So.
All right. So as the NCOIC, I am always with my Chief of Justice, either walking in and out of his office or going to the meetings with him with OSI. So like Capt Bush said, it's so important to build relationships outside the office as well, especially with those who we closely work with. With a tempo, so if we are to break down a weekly tempo of Kadena, Mondays are normally our meeting Mondays. So we catch up with OSI in the morning. We get those case updates. While once we get back, as Captain Bush is updating his OSI summary, what I'm doing then is I am meeting with the NJP clerk and going over the Article 15 reports with our NJP clerk, and then looking at the blotter. So when we do that, my NJP paralegal can pretty much identify what's going to go on for that entire week. That teaches them how to prioritize, and then that's also my opportunity kind of to guide them and see, hey, you might want to take a look at this, or hey, what are we looking at with, for the next 3 days? Is there any Article 15s that maybe we can delegate to other people, especially here in Kadena, where we have a ton of Article 15s. I would want to say in 1 year,
40
a quarter at least. So that's a lot. And most bases don't normally see that number. So it's a team effort, and I empower my NJP clerk to say, ma'am, we have 7 Article 15s. I need help building 4. That's my responsibility then to take those 4. And like Capt Bush said, divvy it out and give it to the people the paralegals who are ready to help out. On Tuesdays, so on Mondays, let me go backtrack. After I've met with the NJP clerks, I'm gonna then go over with our court paralegals, and I meet with them individually with their trial teams, and I also go over the cases for the week ahead. So when they do that, they bring their 6-part folder, their checklist, and pretty much they let me know what I have going on. This is what my trial team and I are focusing on. And then again, it's an opportunity for me to identify if they are on the right track, and then, re-navigate them if they're kind of off center a little bit. But that is our opportunity to lay out the groundwork of what we need to get done for the week. So meeting Mondays. Tuesdays, those are when we have our AmGems inputs. So that's the combination of the attorney and the paralegal inputs, and the paralegals are in charge of inputting that in AmGems. The NCOIC scrubs those inputs, and then by 11:30, like clockwork, those fresh reports are being walked down the hall to our SJA, Colonel Ratchford. And best believe, Colonel Ratchford reviews those AmGems and comes back after lunch with little pizza grease stains. Don't mean to dime him out, but he knows this as well. My AmGems reports would have those little grease stains on there because he'd be reviewing it. And that's pretty much his Tuesday lunch dates, as he calls. He'll hand the AmGems feedback back to me, in which I give it back to the paralegals, go over some of the feedback with them, and where that's when they update AmGems, and then it's ready to be finalized by the end of the day. On Wednesday, those reports are finalized. Our NAF pulls it, and on Thursday is our VTC with the MAGCOM and the NAF at the same time. On Thursdays as well is our paralegal training. So the reason why our paralegals are equipped and they're confident with their skills when Capt Bush delegates XYZ, a task to them. I have made it a point, after serving 4 chiefs of justice, is to sit down with my chief of justice and to go over the 3-level, 5-level, and 7-level skills with our CFETP, so that my captains, not just my chief of justice, but also our trial attorneys, understand the capabilities that each paralegal skill level brings to the table. So because of that understanding, they know to come to me first, and then they would say, hey, have they been trained with this? And I pretty much, since I'm in charge of training, I can tell you yes or no, they're capable of doing that. And from there, both of them just sink in and produce the product. You pretty much have Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then Friday to get work done. If your question is, so where can work be done here? Because we laid everything out on Monday, everything is getting done within the whole week, and the routing is pretty much on the move. I used to hound every single person. I was like, where's the package at? And I would track that package down, and then I would go back to my case paralegal and say, sir, ma'am, your package is here, because that's theirs. That's their product. So daily, my focus is to QC all Article 15s and return it as soon as possible. Return it and push it up and give feedback as soon as possible. For court packages, again, I QC all those court packages and route it up as soon as possible. I return all the packages to the case paralegals with feedback as soon as possible. I can't even stress that enough. That is my job, is to make sure that the quality of the work product is there, and I go back to my chief of justice, and we are constantly talking to each other. I have to say, I'm going to miss Captain Bush when he leaves. He and I, one day I know I'll be working for him again as my future SJA. So it's just been amazing to see what an example it is to have a chief of justice and an NCOIC teaming, because it's just, we're able to give honest feedback to each other. There's days where I'd close the door and we'd have our disagreements, but best believe when we get out of that office, we are singing the same tune and we are right back on track. He is an amazing chief of justice at that, because he does focus on people first and then the process. So because we're already in sync with that, he understands that paralegals own the process, but the attorneys also have to understand the process so we can be efficient together. It's really giving that constant feedback, and then at the end of the day, I keep my loss updated with our tasks. So I go to Sergeant Martin's office and I say, "Ma'am, this is what we're tracking for the week." So she has awareness of all that. And since she is going to be my backup, or she was my backup at the time in case I'm unable to be at work, and in case Colonel Ratchford has questions. So that's my daily.
Awesome. That is a lot of good information because, to your input, my follow-up was going to be, what are some of the best practices that every NCOIC must possess or must act upon, and same thing with the Chief of Military Justice, but you just provided a lot of good practices in there. Is there anything that you would, that both of you would like to add as far as the best practice that a Chief of Military Justice must have, or that a NCOIC Military Justice must have?
Yeah, I think I echo a lot of that what Sergeant Flores said. I think the best couple best practices I'd recommend is one that AmJams should touch everybody. Too often, I think the practice is the Chief of Justice scrambles on the day before his or her AmJams updates are due, and they're just hucking in whatever they can remember from the week. And what we found is more effective is when you start when you get those inputs from everyone. So as Sergeant Flores mentioned, our AmJams literally are reviewed on a weekly basis by the case paralegal, the trial counsel, the Justice NCOIC, the Chief of Justice, the SJA, the 5th Air Force Chief of Justice, and then we even forward them to our circuit trial counsel because some of the new changes, the AFI, the requirements for SVIP and SIP teaming. We found that the key to that is to loop in the circuit trial counsel. So Major C's been awesome out here in the Pacific and really supportive. He gets those every week. And then, of course, the MAGCOM has access to them every week. So when you get that final product at the end, it's not just that the Chief Justice has input those, but it's no kidding. Every single one of those people has had a role in reviewing and inputting what they've done that week on that case. And when it comes time for the justice meeting, what that means is the questions have already been raised and addressed and discussed. And usually our justice meetings then just focus on, okay, well, how do we move forward with these specific issues that have already been identified by everyone? And so it makes the cases, that's the whole purpose is to move cases better and to keep a tracking record, better history of what we're doing. And so it really makes that an effective tool when everyone does that, because it really benefits the cases, it benefits the prosecutions, and everyone is better as a result of it. So that would be my first input, would be the AmJams. And then the other one is one we briefly touched on is just basically becoming embedded in your organizations and getting out into their meetings. One other real practical tip that you can do is you can center your justice meetings. You can get those partners at your justice meetings. We found that to be really effective. Colonel Ratchford really spearheaded that movement. And there's a little bit of resistance from some partners initially, but folks are really on board now, and it is such an important sync up. So at our justice meetings, if you look around any week, we have our S2I reps there, we have OSI there, our circuit trial counsel is there, all of our case paralegals and trial counsel, every single one of them is there in the room. And we try and do it in an hour so that it's, it doesn't take up too much time with folks, but it's such an important and valuable use of time. And then we also have at the end of it, so we do our annual or our hour meeting with everyone, and then folks disperse. But then I stay with Colonel Ratchford, and we also call 5th Air Force, and we give them a back brief and PACAF on the phone as well. So, by having everyone in the same room, you can really, really identify the issues and then what everyone's going to do on the weekend. So everything from, expert witness packages to investigative steps to preparing for trial, everyone's there and everyone's on sync, and you really save a lot of time and avoid a lot of pain by getting people there. But the only way you can do that is if they trust you, and if you've got those relationships in place. So you've really built a good rapport with those offices. They want to come to those meetings. It's not just an extra meeting. So I found that to be a really valuable best practice.
That's awesome.
for us as well, I just want to be clear, the case paralegals, and you know how AmGems are paralegals, right? Yeah. To be very clear, case paralegals are responsible for inputting the updates. Okay, so I just want to make that very clear. We receive the feedback and the input from the team for our team players, circuit trial counsel, OSI, all of those pretty much we write that up into a summary. And that's when our case paralegals, since they own that case, will then input that in AmJams. So with that, whenever they go into the weekly meetings, our case paralegals have a copy of their actual AmJams report in front of them. And they are constantly scrubbing that. They are the first set of eyes that scrubs it, takes notes during the meeting, and then collectively after the meeting, we will all sit down together, collect our notes, and then as the NCOIC of Justice, I'll go over it, share my notes as far as processing is concerned. So I always think 2-3 steps ahead while they're talking about what's coming up next. And that's you as an NCOIC truly understanding the court-martial process from start to finish, the Article 15 process from start to finish, and identifying what needs to get done at the time. So a best practice when you're in those meetings is to have your actual AmJams reports in front of you and having the paralegals really take notes and dig deep and get them invested from the very beginning is the key there.
Can I jump in? I'm sorry. Yeah, I think that's such a valuable point. We all have printouts. I literally have sitting across from me on this desk right now a printout of our AmJams cases because it's the next thing I'm doing right after this. And so we do have these hard copies of them that we use. And then we'll write on the bottom of them from the justice meeting. We'll usually be, creating little boxes with do outs on that specific case. And I actually keep that tangible printout in my hand. And then throughout the week, when somebody walks through my office, I'll pull up in their case and I'll look down at the bottom, and then I can just ask them, right away, how is A, B, and C coming on this case? And then they've got the same thing because they were also writing it down on theirs, and so then they can respond. Done A, working on B, need some help with C, and so I've found that to be a really, really effective technique too. Sorry.
Oh no, you're good, sir. So as far as process is concerned, I would say establish a consistent and structured way to review and route each package. For us, we have the primary source documents and the actual case documents that are routed together. I also, when it comes to routing, it starts again from the case paralegal and it goes all the way up to the SJA. There's a maximum of 2 changes to the package. When it reaches, so it's the case paralegal, it goes all the way up to the NCOIC of Justice, the court reporter, when we used to have one, the trial counsel, and then the chief of justice, which gives the trial counsel and the chief of justice some mentorship time. And then once that's pushed up, it'll then go to our leadership, which would be the loss. The loss would look at that. She is the first line of defense when it comes to, the NCOIC is the first line and the loss is the second. Once that goes up to the loss, then she brings it back to me. At the time, Senior Martin, she would come back to me, give me the package, and then I would go back to the case paralegal, go over the edits that need to be made, and they will clean up, the documents. Once that's cleaned up, we then take it to the DSJA. Our DSJA looks at it, then it goes to Colonel Ratchford. Once Colonel Ratchford has the entire package, Capt Bush and I already know that we will be called into his office. And it's not a bad thing. We used to joke around and say, oh, okay, here we go. But actually, it was beautiful because Colonel Ratchford is a natural professor. He's a natural teacher. So he brings the Chief of Justice, he brings me in, he brings the case paralegal in, and we go over the changes together, or show me why this happened, or this template looks, is great. Where did you guys get the source documents? It's almost always no question, because that leads me to my next point, which is avoid the shared drive bank and instead go directly to the primary sources, which is your JJM desk book, UCMJ, your AFIs, and your ONS, to pull your references each time to ensure that we're in compliant with the new changes. That's how we stayed on top of it. That's how we caught the changes as we were routing. That's how we caught new templates. following that, as the NCOIC, I'm fully invested in tracking the status of the packages and ensure that it keeps on moving. If I've already listed out how many people see it, they know that the expectation is once that package drops on your desk, that is a priority, especially since everybody knows that a court is coming up. With that said, I circle back to the case paralegal until we both finally have that package and ready to rock and roll with the final product, get it ready, and again, we work 2 steps ahead. Constantly refine the packages and be flexible to implement the new regs and rules, especially as it constantly changes or updates. So what I mean by constantly refine the packages is that when we are pulling up our primary AFIs and our UCMJ and our sources and something does not make sense, that's when we ask the questions, why doesn't this make sense? When we need to make it, we need to be sure that each package meets the requirements in the UCMJ. We question is the key there. We talk about it. Capt Bush, Colonel Rashford, myself in the processing realm, we all talk about it, as well as our paralegals. If we see something that does not go in line with what the ultimate UCMJ MCM reference says, we then ask the question and up-channel that to JAJM to ask about it. Why is this here in this specific checklist? Why did we maybe miss this? Was this considered? And we provide a proposed solution or a proposed template so they can have that for review. So that's, again, I'll circle right back. It's establish a consistent and structured way to review and route packages. Route the packages efficiently, having every member of your team be invested. Avoid the share drive bank and go directly to the primary sources. Track the status of the packages and ensure that it keeps moving. Constantly refine the packages and be flexible to implement new changes. Which leads me to my next point. Be proactive in identifying the errors or inconsistencies. Don't be afraid. Just because the rules, the AFI says this is the template, don't be afraid to dig deeper and route it up to the chain with a proposed solution or template, so that everyone understands that this is an issue maybe we need to look at. The key here is when I attended the PACAF symposium early this year, the SJN Law Symposium, I remember General Rockwell saying, make policy work for you. And so what does that mean? As the base legal officers, we're responsible for boots on ground, productivity. It comes from us. We are the true reason why our mission is fulfilled day in and day out. Then who better know what needs to be fixed in the field than those who work it every day? So once we do that and we are unafraid to provide the constant feedback that is in line with the rules and the advice of the SJA and the attorneys, then we're able to come up with a solution together. Because of that, it has been highlighted as a success in Kadena in our Article 6 report, such as numerous JAJM policies that were implemented Air Force-wide. An example is the bailiff rank clarity. When you don't need to have a specific rank to be a bailiff, you just have to be neutral and detached, right? The RRT changes that also came to us. We had a template for that. And then the EOJ changes as well. So do not be afraid. The worst the headquarters can say is no, and this is why. But collectively, we need to understand that everything in the military justice process is something we need to be taking ownership, pride, and definitely a bird's eye view of why we do what we do. Because every case that we touch is a person's life. And when our paralegals and our attorneys and everybody in our team understand the magnitude of that, they are a lot more careful and more deliberate when they are producing the work. It's more than just work at that point. It's now processing documentation that will ultimately affect someone's life. So that's where we stem down in the processing and the importance of having a very structured, consistent, and open mind when it comes to that.
Awesome. No, those are excellent highlights as far as best practices, and some of that stuff can definitely be implemented. Some things, depending on how the operations of the legal office may work in a certain place, but for the most part, these are definitely amazing best practices. So thank you for for that information. I want to shift the focus a little bit now to paralegal utilization. Um, so essentially, and we know the main things that paralegals are responsible for, as far as drafting the documents and everything AmJams related. That is paralegals' almost exclusive responsibility. But how do we get more from the paralegals as far as utilizing them to do maybe some more traditional attorney tasks?
Yeah, I think that's such an important issue to flesh out, because too often we get on autopilot mode and just kind of plug away in our traditional roles just based on what we've seen work or not work in the JAG court. I think one important point to realize is a lot of attorneys who are thrust into these supervision responsibilities, whether as section leads or just as a trial counsel. I mean, you essentially become a supervisor as a trial counsel, right, over your trial counsel team. And a lot of attorneys are coming in with no supervision experience under their belt, right? They're coming out of law school, sometimes a few years work experience, but they may or may not have ever worked with people. And so it's a lot of that starts with us as attorneys on recognizing the importance of team and giving people ownership of an aspect of that project in order to get them excited about it. Because as much as we talk about, hey, let's involve paralegals and get them to do more, some more serious work and get down into the weeds on these cases, unless a paralegal feels like they've been given a voice in that space and have the ability to operate, then there's no excitement. It can just feel like more task. I think one area of success, one way we've been able to overcome that in our office is with these weekly case updates. And because the case updates start with the paralegals are really identifying what the next steps are in the case. They write that first. They draft it. It's not the Chief of Justice. It's not the trial counsel. The paralegal literally sits down, goes over their checklist, goes with their NCOIC and says, what's next on this case? And that's really powerful, because I think, you go from a relationship where someone's saying, Airman, Snuffy, can you do A, B, and C? Versus Airman Snuffy coming to the attorney and saying, hey, sir, ma'am, here's what we've got, A, B, and C. What do you think? The relationship switches where the paralegal is now identifying issues and raising them, discussing them locally with the attorney, and then raising them up to the section chiefs and leads. So that shift takes a long time. We've been working for the past year on how to best implement that process. And again, it starts on Monday morning, like we talked about. That's where that conversation first starts. And so with paralegals, the cool thing is it works. I mean, we've had great success, and we're seeing paralegals right now identifying issues that attorneys aren't catching. And I'm not kidding, probably in the last month, I've probably had 3 or 4 times where Airman Hamilton or Diller or Sergeant Babjack have come to me and said, hey, sir, what about this? And I have to play dumb and go, oh, yeah, we knew that was coming. Yeah, we're working on that. But they're ahead of me in the checklist, and they're raising issues. And it's not just, hey, check your witness list. It's not just the stuff that's written out. It's really critical thinking. And there's a thought process happening that's catching stuff that attorneys who are too distracted with other stuff aren't catching. So I think that's, probably the one of the most important ways to really facilitate that leadership over your programs is having things start with paralegals. And then, expecting that weekly conversation to be initiated by them. Yeah.
So Capt Bush is absolutely right. It goes back to the paralegals. And as the NCOIC, I take it to heart when it says my job is to teach, train, and equip. So as you heard him say numerous times, checklist, 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 to the point where he is sick of me saying checklist. But best believe, our paralegals understand the why behind the importance of following the checklist, because they are the leaders. They are the leaders when it comes to driving the processing so that our attorneys can focus on building quality sentencing arguments, looking into probable cause. And the beauty of our attorneys is that they do not hesitate to ask us, what do you think about this? And once again, once you create that environment of open discussion and a safe place to share your input instead of being dismissive because we just can't do it, it's been a great technique and way for us to come together, because when we look at the legal office or the military justice section, we don't think, oh, it's Captain Bush's section or Sergeant Flores or Sergeant Babjack or any of our teammates. It's the legal office. So we do take the time to train and teach each other. And as I always tell the paralegals, iron sharpens iron. So when you are sitting down with your trial attorney, you have to be thinking that that's going to be your future SJA. Because in turn, your attorney's looking at you, that's going to be my future loss. That's going to be, we look at each other in that sense to where, how can I give you the feedback that you need so that we can refine our products together and make it so powerful that it delivers the mission without question, right? And with that, it's all focused on training. The training that we have, that I have for the paralegals, and going over their checklist and constantly having them go back to source documents, is the foundation of why our attorneys trust us when we give them our thoughts about certain processing and also certain perspectives, right? When it comes to cases, we always ask them to give us, is there something I'm not seeing? That's a form of humility, right? That's demonstrating humility. Is, I don't care if you and I are, in the enlisted or officer tier, or you and I are higher ranking or lower ranking. The rank, frankly, does not matter. It's, what did you think about this case? Did they say something weird, or should I be looking at this in one lens? Because Capt Bush and I have seen it to where, and please don't let me speak for you, where individual backgrounds truly play a role when identifying what's in a case.
Yeah, that's crucial, because I think if you just talk to a room full of attorneys, you're not going to get the inaccurate perspective of the way society would view a case, or the way a jury would view a case, or the way that commanders and shirts are going to view a case. You really need to get people with different backgrounds and perspectives in the room and at the table discussing to get the most informed outcome, because otherwise you just make decisions in a vacuum. So yeah, I think that those processes have to start, and it's not just the updates. It's everything from your monthly discipline reports to your SOD slides, to your referral package, any other package. It needs to be starting with paralegals, and it needs to accompany a decision about what's happening and what they think about it. Just to get that kind of sanity check from everybody in the room to make sure that we're all making the right decisions as a legal office.
Our paralegals understand that their voice is very important. They do not hesitate to speak up, because we do empower them to say something. And if it's wrong, it's wrong. If we're seeing it in a different light and somebody is thinking one way in the room, somebody must not be thinking, right? So those backgrounds are so important. And from punishments in Article 15, that's an open discussion. Best believe we would be having a huddle, unintentional huddle, right? Because that's normally what happens, and we would talk about it, how fair it is, how not fair it is, why an LOR was issued instead of a summary court-martial. I mean, those things are crucial in our day-to-day conversations that happen naturally back there, because everyone is, again, the relationship has trust, the trust breeds confidence, the confidence builds better leaders. The leaders that you have within you are then more competent and capable of owning their process, owning their product, and therefore delivering the mission of the JAG Corps. Timely, relevant, and key legal advice, sound legal advice, right? And processing, which is the background behind the scenes work. So that's how Kadena is. We also empower them with, or we also lead by example, I would like to say, when it comes to life-work balance. people like to say work life, but contrary to that, I think it's life work balance. Because if your life, your home life is not stable, it's going to affect your work. We do brag that because we know our priorities and we've worked ahead, we are able to leave at 4:30, and we kick people out with a cowbell at 4:30 every day. So again, I want to give a shout out to our amazing military justice team here currently on Kadena. Airman Stewart, Senior Airman Dillard, Senior Airman Hamilton, Sergeant Babjack, our NCOIC Tech Sergeant Hensley, which she is back there right now. Captain Roche, Captain Laws, Captain Swanson, Miss Garcia, just phenomenal. They are an amazing team, and I could not have asked for a better group here being on Kadena in my last year here.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. And again, thank you for sharing your best practices in regards to the day-to-day operations, and especially the paralegal utilization, because I definitely believe that it's important that we're all together, that we're communicating, and that absolutely that the paralegals are initiating as well what the next step is going to be, or at least bringing it up and say, hey, this is where I think we should be moving next with this case, and then identifying things that instead of waiting for others to identify, we can just start identifying them ahead of time. So now we'll shift from that into the inspection, right? So how did you guys prepare? Because I mean, for those that may not know, Kadena was I think recently inspected. It was October timeframe last year, November. And I mean, not going to say the score or anything like that, but they did extremely well. So I just want to know, what are some of the things that you did to prepare for the inspection?
Yeah, no, we're really proud of it. I think it was flattering, obviously, to get some positive feedback from JAI, and they had just some great feedback. It was really a pleasure to meet with the inspection team. They did such a solid job. But then also just to validate a lot of the hard work and effort. But I think what was most rewarding about it is that we really come together as a team and worked hard. And so I think it was just a result of everything else we've been talking about. And so that was validating. But I think the key was, first of all, you have to have a savant for an SJA who is just, Colonel Ratchford has probably 1,000 years of institutional knowledge in his head, and when he leaves, the JAG Corps will lose a lot of really invaluable institutional knowledge. He's just a really incredible mind when it comes to the JAG Corps and military justice. Just so sharp and so diligent, and the way that he sticks to his programs and processes that he puts in place, and really holds people to the highest level of expectation. Does it in a kind way, in a fair way, but really gets the most out of his people. I've never seen anything like that. But the way then I think he passed that down to us, and the way that it worked, is he basically instilled the inspection process from day one as our operating process. And so rather than have a share drive that we go to, we have an inspection drive. You better believe we're going and we're in every single day. And so of those 120 questions, there's a monthly compliance calendar that's broken down, and every single section has anywhere from 5 to 15 questions that they cover each month and go through and substantiate and update in real time. And the SJA reviews every single one of those questions every single month that have been signed out to people, and gives us really direct feedback on making not only the answer to the question look sharp and in accordance with the regulations, but also to show that our work product from that month is being uploaded into that file. So we really overwhelmed the inspectors. I think they were shocked by how many gigs of information we gave them. But the intent wasn't to, try and bombard them or try and show off or try and be impressive. It was because that was the way that we organized our drive and our information. We built our entire processes around the inspection requirements, because we figured that's what higher headquarters thought was important. That's what we would focus on in delivering to our clients. And as a result, I think we got some pretty good products uploaded in there because we were tracking them for 3 years. And every person, I mean, when you're talking about 120 questions for 4 sections, our 30 plus person team here at Kadena, everyone has to be on sync with that because one person can't just do the inspection by themselves.
Right.
So every section knew exactly what questions they were in charge of, and more importantly, they knew what was expected of them with the people across the installation. So when they did their work product, it was up to, for lack of a better word, it was up to code and met the inspection standards because we were aware of what those standards were from day one. And then again, we just had Colonel Ratchford who was just on it like a hawk and kept to it. When he first presented this plan, he basically laid it out to us, and he was pretty much met with a village mob that was like in our heads. I think out loud we were like, "Oh, sure, boss, yeah, we'll do this." But in our heads, I think everyone thought like, "Yeah, right."
That's so hard.
There's no way that this program will survive more than a month. We'll probably do this really diligently for a month, and then it'll taper off. But no, I mean, to his credit, he was so thorough and strict to that schedule that pretty soon, after a couple months, the complaining had stopped and we started to see the wisdom behind it. We started to see the value of understanding those inspection questions because it really made our jobs easier in the end because we didn't have to go and do things that weren't expected of us. We didn't focus our energy on things that aren't as important. We were able to really focus on what we should be doing as a JAG Corps based on these inspection questions. So, when we tell people that, I think it can be overwhelming, but I think that's why the inspection went as well as it did. And I think that's why people, as Sergeant Flores said, go home at 4:30. When there's times, if there's a trial or if there's an urgent issue, of course, people are paying, or putting in long hours. And, that'll always happen. In the military, there will always be times where you've got to put in more time. But for the most part, even when it came time that month before the inspection, we were literally during the month leading up to the inspection, we were going home at 4:30, and that's because we've been following the processes for 3 years and not just 3 months scrambling to get the inspection done.
Right. So again, Colonel Ratchford incorporated that into our daily process, but in all actuality, it's the leadership team up there because as a NCOIC of Justice, I was learning from the leadership team, my senior enlisted leaders up there, such as Senior Master Sergeant Martin, who's now retired, Amber Martin, and Master Bolda. And what they did up there as the leadership team was to provide us with a sizable, realistic monthly questions expectation. Meaning, every section had about 4 to 5 questions to answer per month. 4 to 5. 4 to 5 questions to answer per month. And it was just a revolving review every month, right? Because things do happen. As the NCOIC of Military Justice, I knew that questions 13 to 75 were mine. Those were those were military justice questions. And those are, with Capt Bush, we would sit down together and we would assign questions to individuals in our team.
Starting with paralegals, right?
Yes,
yep.
The paralegals were in those questions. Hey, you're the NJP clerk. You're going to answer, guess what, number 51 all the way to 55. Have the adverse actions chief. It's too specific to me to be naming people in there because they've already moved and transitioned over, and PCS. But nonetheless, the NJP clerk and the adverse actions attorney would be knocking out the Article 15 questions together because that's their program and they see it constantly. With that, because it was on a realistic monthly schedule that was reviewed, that was initiated by the paralegal, the attorney, and then reviewed by leadership, the feedback was almost instantaneous to where we can constantly just, update it as we go, which then equals to incorporating it in our daily process. And if something sticks out to us, for example, the owner of that question will be like, oh, hey, remember that DNA collection for question 57? That happened in my case. They're able to give us that crosstalk feedback. And then that's when we go in there and no kidding, upload the document, update our substantiation, and then update the question as well. Everybody was on board. Was it difficult in the beginning? Yes. Any change, when you try to implement it, it's difficult. But once your entire team understood that if we do it consistently and if we do it, embed it with our everyday process, then not only do we know our job, but we understand what's expected of us, not just by Congress, but also by the JAGWOR. So monthly questions, sizable. We have a calendar for that. That's in our PACAF page. If you need any help, please feel free to reach out. We've had a lot of bases reach out to us. We have a sample of our share drive that's divided into folders. And so if anybody needs help with their inspection program, please feel free to reach out. We are here to help each other. We're only an email or phone call away, and we would be more than happy to go over the inspection process with you. It's all about perspective. Everybody almost dreads an inspection, correct? But if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing from the start, then you should not hesitate on having other people outside of your office check your work.
Yeah, and it's such a valuable resource just as a drive, like I said, to consult. So when I think about an issue that arises, my first question is, do we have something like that on the inspection drive? And as a new Chief of Justice, to be honest, the thing that was most intimidating to me was post-trial, because so much of that is driven and initiated by paralegals who understand that process better than the attorneys. And so I was intimidated by that. I didn't want the paralegals in the section to know that I was clueless on that process. And then there's, by the way, there's like 4 different 300 plus size regs and MCNs and RCMs out there. There's so many flipping resources to try and get smart on for post trial that it's just a beast. But the best way to do it is just look at the 8 post trial inspection questions, because that'll capture all the requirements that you're going to have to answer the mail on. So start there as a paralegal or as a justice, either trial counsel or chief of justice, and just look at that, and then you can see in the answers what your job is, because it'll give you the reference, and then it'll say what you're supposed to do. And if you can review those 8 questions, suddenly people think you're really smart, and they think that you know all those regs back and forth, backwards and frontwards. But it's really just because you've gotten familiar with what's expected of you. And so that is the best place, I think, to start. And then with time and cases, you can get into more of the nuances. But yeah.
Right. But as a new Chief of Justice or NCOIC, definitely ask for your last Article 6 inspection report. Always just ask your loss, ma'am, sir, may I please see the inspection report? And with that, it'll tell you pretty much what they've identified in the military justice section. From there, as the Justice NCOIC and the Chief of Military Justice, we can look at it together and say, okay, so either we need to fix this or this needs to be kept. You know what I mean? Like, you can identify what processes needs to be kept in place, because if it's not broken, then don't fix it. Refine it, make it better, sure. But if it's been working, it doesn't matter who sits in that position, meaning the personality and the person doesn't matter. The process itself, if it's established well, should be able, anyone who sits in that position should be able to run that program succinctly and seamlessly, So again, it's more reference versus preference. So we owe it to the people who are going to come after us to establish and lock in a solid program so that they can continue the trajectory of how we've been processing things on Kadena. And then with new personnel coming in, we do not hesitate to do training sections focused on back to basics, especially when you have new changeover. That's actually what's going to happen next week when I have new paralegals come in. It's indoctrinating them in to, hey, welcome to Kadena. This is your section. This is what the expectations are. And this is how we do things. And you can almost always believe that we will point you to the primary sources, because again, we don't rely on our share drive bank. We go to the primary sources and constantly teach, train, and equip each other on the knowledge that we have to keep moving forward.
No, that's great. And it's a good segue to our last topic, which is training. So how does the office go about conducting training, and how is it? Well, yeah, so how do you conduct training on a weekly basis? How do you document it?
So for paralegal and attorney training, it normally takes place every week on Thursdays from 7:30 to 8:30. This is more of an interactive and a variety type of training, meaning we have SMEs from in and outside the office, such as campus, flight. We use the KM sites. We've set that up with prior, and we have a training plan that we develop every quarter. We used to do it every year, but now we do it every quarter, especially since a lot of the MJA Act has been implemented throughout the field, new training. And then what happens is, if in the paralegal side, I can definitely speak to this, is if you are in upgrade training, we will be doing upgrade training with the supervisor. Once a month, we would then come together as a section. They would do section training, and they would do, for example, a back to basics training session, such as how do we do a referral package from start to finish. We've also made it to where we would serve each other Article 15s, because we don't know what happens when, especially when you have new paralegals. There is always a variety, mainly focused on building leaders and strengthening institutional knowledge, right? That's why we go to campus, we go to KM, we go to the Paralegal COVID-19 training page. I mean, it's just amazing to see what it is. As the the primary person in charge of training, I do my best to look at the relevancy of that training, right? How is it relevant right now? Right now, I have a new team. What do they need to know? And so we would build them up from there. And then we would also do paralegal and attorney training together. Like we did ROT training together. We did AmJams training together. So they knew the intricacies of AmJams, although they cannot touch it, or so we say. They really can't. They would come hover over us to make those inputs. We would do training. We would invite other SMEs like Chief Covedo, who's our superintendent, who did a bullet writing with us. I mean, we opened the scope, not just with institutional knowledge, but also professional development outside the office. And we bring in key speakers who would help us train in that area. Also, I think this one is the key. Training is every day for us, to be honest with you, because in every package, when we have an error or an update, for example, we would huddle again and talk about it. Literally, we would be like, hey, for this vacation action, we should have put effective date of punishment XXX because AFI said this. Especially with the skill levels that we have back there, we're constantly training. We're constantly training no matter what. And the beauty of having a consistent routing package and a structured one is being able to go back to the template sources and actually doing OJT at the same time. So it's relevant, and we also make it a point to dig deep in our training sessions. I want to say we challenge our paralegals to ask, so why do we have to do the PDS? So why is referral important? So where in the RCM says we have to do referral? We go back to why. Why is that?
Why is that important? Why is that a thing? Yeah, I think that's huge. I mean, we can substantiate training, as a weekly, tie it up in a nice little bow and say, we do training every week for an hour, and that kind of checks the training box when it's for inspectors or anyone asking. But that's exactly right. Sergeant Flores said the real training is happening every day. Okay. So Tech Sergeant Nellie Hensley is our current military justice NCOIC. We call her TIO, which stands for the immovable object, because she cannot be pulled out of that section. She is always training paralegals. Anytime I walk by her office, she's either in her office with a paralegal and they're pouring through a checklist, or she's in their office working over a document with them together, training on hands. You can't really identify what an individual needs in a group setting. And so whether it's a new A1C is taken over the 15 program or discharges, you can go through kind of a generic training in an hour session with people to cover the basics, but until that person's sitting down in AmJams looking at the drop-down options, that's when the training really occurs. And so that has to come from one-on-one, getting, going to their office, identifying weaknesses, and then helping them. So really, really pleased with how much initiative our NCOs and senior NCOs take in leading that role and that charge. The other thing we do that I think is neat is, and you've seen this, Master Sergeant Perez, is we like to bring our paralegals to our trainings that we do and have them brief as often as possible. And so when you train someone else on your role, you really have to think about what you do, and then you have to answer questions that you might not have thought about in front of an entire group of people. So there's no better way to become a subject matter expert than to go and stand in front of people and pretend like you're a subject matter expert. You do that for a couple of months, and all of a sudden you're like, oh shoot, yeah, I've thought through a lot of this stuff. So I think too often attorneys see on their calendar a training opportunity, they grab the keys and they head out the door and they see you guys in an hour, I've got to go to this training. That's such a good opportunity to just snag the section paralegal who's in charge of that, have them get in the car with you, drive together, and have them be responsible for giving portions of that brief and answering questions. It does wonders. So
yes, definitely. So as a sitting loss now, I make it a point to always teach and train my NCOIC. Absolutely. I want her to be better than me. I want her to thrive. I want her to definitely, be so equipped back there to make sure that hello? Hi.
Yeah, you're good.
To make sure that she has everything that she needs, and she is phenomenal. Again, Sergeant Hensley, shout out to her for always training, teaching, and being hands-on with the team back there. Could not have asked for a better NCOIC. With Capt Bush, also the joint training that paralegals do, when we go outside of the office, whether that's annual training with security forces or first sergeant symposium, a paralegal is there with the attorney, briefing it.
Briefing, yeah, yes. Not just watching, but briefing.
Briefing, yes. And so that's when you can tell that ownership starts and stops with them, and it's a collective effort. It's a team effort, and it starts from top down and down up. That is a true statement. So we're here to take care of each other. We're here to, sharpen each other, and we're definitely here to make sure that we carry out what we are asked to do, which is to take care of our people who are the best resource that we have. And then from there, the mission and the process will take care of itself.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I hear, throughout this entire chat and this discussion, which, thank you again for taking the time to do this. I've heard a lot of diversity and inclusion within our process, right? Just including one another, making sure that everyone is invested or has a stake in everything that is happening in our section and in the entire legal office. So that's awesome. Well, again, that is all the questions that I had for you, but thank you for sharing your knowledge, your expertise, and just the excellent product that you have shown and that the Air Force found out that is happening at Kadena as well. So I definitely wanted to make sure that not only I got that information, but that as many people as possible also got the information as far as some of the best practices as to how Kadena is doing things, because you all are absolutely crushing it. So once again, congratulations on the inspection, and congratulations on being the greatest legal office in the Air Force for 2019. So now you can go to the beach. Is it good weather right now at Kadena?
It's beautiful. Yeah, a little bit. The rainy season hasn't been as bad as it's been in past years. So absolutely, that's some group PT snorkel sessions are in order. That's for sure.
That's right. And how's COVID affecting? Not too much in Okinawa?
It has for sure. So some of the restrictions were just recently lifted, and it's been quite extensive because, of course, out here we have to balance the needs of our partner nations and our USFJ partners, and then the individual installations. There's all services are on this island, so it's a big balancing act of getting everyone to getting all those perspectives on the situation, and so we're just coming out of some of the restrictions, but perfect time for the beach, absolutely.
That's right, yeah. So you can hit up the beach, and that's one of my favorite things about about being in Kadena for as long as I was there, is the drive from Douglas. right? Douglas Drive,
Yeah.
coming down the hill to the
Yes.
legal office, right around the golf course, and you see if it's a beautiful day, you just see the water, you see the ocean, so you already, already have a smile on your face. Your spirits should be lifted from that scenery as you go.
Yeah, and then you slip out for lunch, and you're 5 minutes out the gate. You've got the best sushi in the world. I mean,
Right.
it's an assignment to. If it's not on your dream sheet, shame on you.
That's right. Absolutely.
We feel very fortunate.
Beautiful. Thank you again for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much, Master Perez.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you'll have a great day, and hopefully you're not too busy, but continue to kill it.